Sometimes it's easy to forget that while celebrities tower above us in everyday life, they tend to fall much farther and harder when they decide to make mistakes or be terrible people. Let's take a look at some celebrities who are still in prison for a variety of heinous crimes. Bill Cosby was accused of sexual assault many times over the years, and even settled with one accuser in 2006. Still, his behavior somehow stayed under the radar until comedian Hannibal Buress mentioned in a 2014 stand-up routine that the former Cosby Show star was known for raping women. Before long, a string of women began revealing that the actor forced himself upon them without their consent. Supermodel Janice Dickinson told Entertainment Tonight that he drugged her with wine and a pill before assaulting her. It went downhill for him from there. In 2015, additional women opened up about being raped by Cosby, with New York Magazine interviewing 35 of them. Several of the accusers filed lawsuits against the star. Eventually, 60 women had come forward and accused Cosby of sexual assault, according to USA Today. In 2016, a Pennsylvania judge decreed that there was enough evidence for a criminal trial, for which the jury deadlocked in June 2017, resulting in a mistrial. There was a retrial in 2018, and Cosby was found guilty on 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault, receiving a 3 to 10-year sentence for assaulting a Philadelphia woman in 2004. Cosby has denied all the allegations. In 2019, he claimed in an interview that he would rather stay in prison for a decade than admit to something he didn't do. Marion Hugh Suge Knight Jr. is the former CEO of the infamous 90s hip-hop label Death Row Records, which released numerous multi-platinum albums by the likes of Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Tupac Shakur, before falling into obscurity by the turn of the century. In January 2015, he had an altercation with a man named Cleabone Sloan, who worked on the biopic Straight Outta Compton, a film that doesn't necessarily paint Suge in the most positive light. The fight got so intense that Knight ended up grazing Sloan with his vehicle and running over a man named Terry Carter, who died from his injuries. Knight initially claimed his actions were in self-defense and that he was being chased by 2 armed men. 3 years later, Knight entered a plea deal and was sentenced to 22 years in prison for voluntary manslaughter and 6 years for a third strike violation, which totaled 28 years behind bars. He has been serving time at the Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility in San Diego County, California since 2018 and isn't eligible for parole until 2037. Not long after he was sent to prison, Knight claimed that Dr. Dre was behind a plot to assassinate him. He told The Blast it was a murder-for-hire scheme with a paper trail that proves Dre was involved in a plan that would get rid of Knight. So far, nothing has come of these accusations. Film mogul Harvey Weinstein is in prison based on the allegations of just 2 people, Miriam Haley and Jessica Mann, even though a total of 87 women spoke out about the sexual abuse they experienced at his hands over the years. According to Biography, Weinstein was arrested in New York and charged with rape, committing a criminal sex act, sexual abuse, and sexual misconduct in 2018. Investigators in California and London were also targeting the producer for sex crimes. Before he went to trial, Weinstein posted $1 million bail and was ordered to wear an ankle monitor. He was later indicted on charges of rape in the 1st and 3rd degrees, a first-degree criminal sexual act, and other felony sex charges. The entire time, Weinstein refuted the charges and claimed that the victims were willing participants. At one point during the investigation, a spokeswoman told USA Today, any allegations of non-consensual sex are unequivocally denied by Mr. Weinstein. In 2020, the producer was found guilty of committing a criminal sexual act against Haley and rape in the 3rd degree. He was found not guilty of predatory sexual assault and rape in the 1st degree against Mann. Weinstein was sentenced to 23 years in prison and is a registered sex offender. New Orleans rapper C. Murder, born Corey Miller, was convicted of 2nd-degree murder for killing a teen named Steve Thomas in a nightclub in 2002. The rapper started serving a life sentence in Louisiana State Penitentiary in 2009, according to NBC News. However, there's a twist in his case. Since his incarceration, 2 major eyewitnesses came forward to recant their testimony. Plus, an unlikely ally has come to his defense, reality star Kim Kardashian. In April 2020, the Supreme Court determined that jury verdicts in trials involving serious crimes must agree unanimously. In Miller's case, he was convicted 10-2. Kardashian, who is studying to be an attorney, tweeted at the time, Since his trial, witnesses have recanted, new evidence of his potential innocence has come to light, and there are claims of jurors being pressured into voting to convict. One witness, Kenneth Jordan, revealed that he was pressured to lie about C. murder because he feared being imprisoned himself on unrelated charges. The other witness, Darnell Jordan, also claimed he felt pressured to lie under oath. Meanwhile, the convicted rapper has claimed he's innocent of all charges.
They got me for a second-degree murder, something I didn't do.
Michael Jace, who you may know for the television police drama The Shield, shot his wife in front of their 2 children in their Los Angeles home in 2014. According to CNN, he was sentenced to 40 years in prison for the murder. The motive for the killing appeared to be jealousy. His wife, April Jace, wanted a divorce, and the 53-year-old actor was convinced she was dating another man. After committing the murder on May 19, 2014, he called the police and his father-in-law and admitted to the crime. Jace had a history of violent behavior. A friend of his first wife revealed in a sworn statement during a 2005 custody case that he had choked and hit his first wife and slammed her against the wall. Jace's acting career spanned 2 decades, including a role as basketball legend Michael Jordan in the made-for-TV movie Michael Jordan, An American Hero. In 2017, actor Ricardo Medina Jr., known for playing a Power Ranger, was convicted for stabbing and killing his roommate Joshua Sutter with a sword 2 years earlier, according to USA Today. The star claimed he was acting in self-defense and pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison. Medina was initially charged with first-degree murder, but he decided to plead guilty to the lesser charge to avoid a potential life sentence. What led up to the killing? Medina and Sutter had an argument in their home in Los Angeles, reportedly over Medina's girlfriend. The couple reportedly locked themselves in Medina's bedroom, and Sutter broke the door to gain entry. That's when the actor stabbed him. Medina starred as the Red Lion Wild Force Ranger on Power Rangers Wild Force in 2002, and he also had a voice role on Power Rangers Samurai in addition to some guest appearances on ER and CSI Miami. Olympic and Paralympic athlete Oscar Pistorius shot and killed his girlfriend Reeva Steenkamp at his home in Pretoria, South Africa on Valentine's Day in 2013. Pistorius was arrested and charged with murder, even though he insisted he killed Steenkamp by accident, believing she was a trespasser taking cover in his bathroom. The jury found him guilty of culpable homicide, and he was sentenced to 5 years in prison. He also received a 3-year suspended sentence for reckless endangerment. Pistorius was released from prison after serving just 1 year. Authorities later overturned the verdict and issued a sentence for murder instead, bumping his prison time up to an additional 13 years and 5 months. The athlete could potentially stay behind bars until 2030, however he is eligible for parole in 2023. Pistorius is also known as the Blade Runner. Both of his legs were amputated when he was an infant, and he started running as a teenager. He won a gold medal during the 2004 Athens Paralympics. In 2012, he started running against non-disabled athletes and was the first amputee to compete in Olympic track events. In 2013, actress Shannon Guest Richardson, whose big claim to fame was playing multiple zombies on The Walking Dead, pleaded guilty to developing, producing, possessing, and transferring a toxin with the intent to use it as a weapon, according to the Texarkana Gazette. She mailed threatening, poison-laced letters to then President Barack Obama and 2 other people. Richardson bought supplies for the plot using a credit card and account under her husband's name, and she made the poison ricin using castor beans in the home she shared with her husband and 4 children. She was also pregnant while making the concoction.
1 or 2 grains of salt would be the equivalent size of the amount of ricin that could be lethal to a human being if a person ingests or inhales it.
She mailed the letters to Obama, New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg, and a man named Michael Glaze, who was employed by Mayors Against Illegal Guns. The FBI collected and examined all of the correspondence. Richardson wrote about gun control in the letters and tried to set up her husband for the crime by planting evidence in his car and lunchbox. Despite her attempt to frame him, she was arrested in 2013 and eventually given an 18-year sentence. Richardson is serving time in a federal prison in Fort Worth, Texas, and could be released in 2029. She is not eligible for parole. Many people may not remember Sam Hurd, who was a wide receiver for the Chicago Bears and Dallas Cowboys. However, he was involved in some extracurricular activities that make him hard to forget. When he wasn't playing football, the athlete was running a drug ring. In fact, he was moving a whopping 4 kilos of cocaine, which cost $100,000 each week, according to Sportscasting. Hurd sold the drugs to make a profit, and he had a partner and a fleet of vehicles to move the cocaine wherever it needed to go. In 2011, he revealed to an undercover officer that he wanted to boost his supply by up to 10 kilos per week, in addition to 1,000 pounds of marijuana, which would have given him an overhead of $2 million a month. The information he divulged was enough for an arrest. In 2013, Heard was sentenced to 15 years in prison for purchasing and trafficking drugs in Chicago. He was just 28 years old. Before his arrest, he had signed a $5 million contract with the Bears, so he gave up a lot of cash after he was busted for drug running. Nathaniel Glover, aka Kid Creole, is a founding member of hip-hop group Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, and he is currently being held at the Vernon C. Bain Correctional Center in the Bronx. He has been there since 2017, but is yet to go to trial according to the source. Glover, 61, was arrested and charged with murder in the second degree after stabbing a man named John Jolly in the chest. Glover and Jolly, a registered sex offender, had an altercation in Midtown Manhattan. During an interview in March 2021, Glover was eager to tell his side of the story. He has previously been labeled as homophobic, but insisted he merely acted in self-defense and disputed reports that he had problems with the LGBTQ community. Glover claimed he was minding his own business when Jolly aggressively pursued him and appeared to have harmful intentions. Glover initially thought Jolly was trying to pick him up before the latter began to follow him. Glover is still waiting for a trial date and is struggling to stay positive. He explained, "I'm suffering. I'm locked in a room 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, day in, day out, not knowing what my fate is going to be because my case is dragging on. It's very difficult for me right now. If you or anyone you know has been a victim of sexual assault, help is available. Visit the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network website or contact RAIN's National Helpline at 1-800-656-HOPE 4673. If you or someone you know is dealing with domestic abuse, you can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. You can also find more information, resources, and support at their website.